We have an oli that we do, and it's we did this when we went to the headlands to see the Indians, and we went there to let them know. And within this oli is a greeting to those who are hosting us, and we wanted them to know that we come with the traditions of our forefathers, which is from Kahiki. We come on that wave that brings us here with love for all, not just for a select few, but love for all. So my sister and I would like to do that oli for you. And it's a welcome. And along with this welcome oli, there's always a bowl of poi that we come with. If you come into our home, we won't oli you in, but this is to greet those, to thank the dignitaries who brought us here today. That was what this oli was meant to do, to greet them and to let them know we come with our open hearts. And it is how the kupuna taught us to greet others. It was never held back. Hawaiians were open-hearted, they were loving, and they wanted to share what they had from their kupuna. Okay, so this is how it goes. Oh yeah. Ano ai ko kako mea ho'oki pala ea. Amena mea hano hano. Ke ho'ohiva hiva ia ne makoula ea. E hui pui ka vai vai. O ko kako mau kupuna la ea. Iahi pu'u ia kako I Kalo kahi. Kanalu imi a kako mai kahiki mai la ea. Me ke aloha no kako a pau. Me ke aloha no kako a pau. Aloha, my name is Luella Opu'ulani Albino, and we're here to talk story about Kalo. And culturally, we come from Hawaiian family who grew taro all of their lives. And these are not like just 1 or 2 generations, but as far back as we can go, we're taught that we come, and if you're a Hawaiian, you didn't come from Kahiki Nui or Kahiki Ku. If you came from Haloa, the very first Haloa was a taro. He was born to Wakea and Ho'ohuki Kalani. And there are many versions or variations of this mo'olelo, but we were told that the very first Hawaiian was indeed a taro plant. He was born in the Hawaiian term alu alu, which means he wasn't fully formed, and so he never lived at birth. Therefore, he was planted by his parents in the east side of their house, and in a few weeks, a plant sprouted from where this child was buried or planted, and it became the very first taro. The name of this child was Haloa Naka, and when the lau or this taro grew, it grew on a very long stalk, and its leaves were very fragile, and so it would flutter in the wind, hence the name Haloa Naka Lau Kapalili. Lau is of course the leaf of the taro, and kapalili means to flutter or vibrate in the softest of breeze. After him, another Haloa was born, and if it weren't for the first Haloa having been born and planted into the ground, buried and growing and bringing forth taro, none of the Hawaiians thereafter would have lived, because Papa and Wakea later had other children known as Hawaii, Maui, Molokai. These islands were also known as their children. They would not have lived had it not been for that very first Haloa. So historically, culturally, we're a race and a people who have lived and thrived on taro. There are many instances where our children would have probably not lived had it not been for poi. I've had instances where my sons were ready to be shipped to Tripler due to bad dehydration, and the only food that would stay down and that their bodies would keep within them would be the poi. And so from that kind of cultural background, taro is very important to us, and we eat it. We encourage all Hawaiians to eat it. It is their food, and it's good for anyone, whether you're Hawaiian or not. But being exposed to it in early childhood make us love taro. We love taro. We eat all the whole lau, all the way, the ha-has, the corm itself, the kalo itself, and we use it different ways. Health-wise, you can't beat it. It's an important staple in our diet, a very good complex carbohydrate that helps Hawaiians. And if they ate their foods, especially kalo, we wouldn't have all the health problems we have today. But I thank my parents who came from Waikapu, who were taro farmers, who owned large parcels of land with water, came to Molokai in the early 1900s and settled in Ho'olihua and also grew taro here on this land that was dry and barren, full of weeds. But they grew taro and it thrived. And today, that's our heritage. We have taro as a cultural as well as traditional food that we love to eat.
Aloha, I'm Vanda Vahinikui Hanakahi, and we're sisters. Raised from infancy by our grandparents, William Kaonohi Okala Wallace and Elena Makaivi Wallace. For myself, the poi has been, something like my sister said that we love. We've eaten it since when we were babies until now. And I've had health problems, and now I do Hawaiian nutrition programs and 21-day nutrition programs. And the main foods that we use are our own Hawaiian staples, which are the kalo, the poi, ulu, which is a breadfruit, uwala, which is a sweet potato, the luau, which is the taro leaves, and the potato leaves, palula. And for myself, since 1995, even though I have a long way to go, but I've lost nearly 200 pounds. And in getting back to eating this way and now promoting this way of eating, I would eat like 2 huge saimin bowls of poi for lunch and for dinner. And on an average, I would lose 22 pounds a week. But that was because I had so much weight to lose. But the poi has been studied, analyzed scientifically, and it's found that it takes 9 pounds of poi to put 1 pound of weight on a person. That's like eating an equivalent of 2,000 calories a day. So, and we can't eat 9 pounds of poi, but it's our medicine, it's our food that is very helpful. It's been found to have natural fluoride in it. So we know why Hawaiians, when the skulls were uncovered, that the teeth were perfect. And that was one of our main foods. But we learned from when we were young, etiquette of eating poi. When we sat down, we all ate out of the same bowl of poi. We always had a poi bowl on our table, and when people would come to visit, we believe in ho'okipa, which is that's hospitality. We would invite them in to eat. And whether they be haole, missionaries, or, tourists, friends, whatever, family, we all eat out of the same bowl. And if it was thick poi, we ate with 2 fingers. And that's ai papalua. If you couldn't eat too much, then you ate with 1 finger. But it was only either 1 finger or 2 finger poi. Miki papakahi or miki papalua. Any more than that, then that's anunu or greedy. So it was 1 finger, 2 finger. And when we ate poi, it was a time of peace. Nobody bring the trouble to the table. You leave all that aside, you come and you sit down and you eat in peace. So that was part of our upbringing, and that's part of our cultural way when it comes to poi. But We love poi. We love our foods, our Hawaiian foods. Oia valeno.
I remember when we were growing up. Now today, when the babies need to eat baby foods, we go to the store, we buy baby food. But in those days, there weren't baby foods, so we were fed by ai mama. Today, ai mama means snack, because mama means, quick, you make something quick. But they would eat the poi, our kupuna, and they would feed us through their mouths. And so they would chew the food, and so there was no need for, going to the store, because there were no stores then, but they would feed us whatever they ate, and they knew what was right for us. But it was poi chewed in the mouth, or taro chewed in the mouth, and then fed directly from the mouth to the child. And we're fed this when we were very little. And that was, for me, one aspect that I learned. I remember my daughter asking me about, not too long ago, whether we're going to have a strike. The longshoremen had a dispute on the docks. And I told her if it ever came to the point where there would be no baby food, we would have sweet potato and our taro. And I said, that's why we grow them, because our kupuna grew these foods to last. And this would take care of them. This would sustain life. You would chew it in your mouth, and you would feed your baby from your mouth. And that was called ai mama. So in our culture, it goes way back. The Hawaiians were very smart people. They learned well from their kupuna, and they tried to pass these things on to their children, their mopuna. And it was always like that, from the grandparents to the mopuna, because the parents were very busy working to make a living. So the grandparents were there with the young. They're the caretakers of the young. So this knowledge is passed on that way. So, but I remember eating like that when we were young.
We were fed that way.
Yeah.
And the Hawaiians have this saying and it's just to show the great affection that the grandparents have for their children, for their grandchildren, and that was hi'ialo, ihi'ikua, which means held in the bosom and held on the back. They love the child so much that they always carry this child close to them. They don't allow the child to walk. When the child is small. But it's a saying just, to show this great affection that the grandparents have for the children. So all their knowledge, they pass on to this child.
My earliest memories of taro were in Honolulu, because our parents planted a lo'i there with ka'aiho'opi'i. And I remember the sweet smell of taro. Taro has a scent. It has a very light, sweet smell. As a little child, I remember going in between the taro plants, and I visited Honolulu with a cousin of ours, Bobby Alkane. And the terraces that are there were built by our kupuna. But they still remain. But I always remember the smell, the sweet smell of taro. It has a smell. If you work closely with taro, it has a smell. And it doesn't come from the flower of the taro. It comes from the certain varieties of taro that are grown.
I've heard some elderly Hawaiians say that when they were being raised, they were really poor, and so they would eat just poi and Hawaiian salt, pa'akai. And for our family, we never ever ate that way. My parents, my own birth mother, who was the daughter of the grandparents that adopted me, they never ate that way. Because there was always, they raised fish, the o'opu and the goldfish in the pupu, in the taro patch, in the lo'i. And so they would always have protein. They would just go in, and then even if they didn't have a net, my sister was saying, they would just go in and just hit the fish up onto the banks of the taro patch. And so they had the fish. Our mama would clean it and lomi that thing, and put in green onions and Hawaiian salt. They had poi, and our father planted uwala, papaya, banana. That was year round that we had that. So they never had to eat only poi and pa'akai. They always had a well-balanced diet. So that's our life.
when times were hard, and there were times here in Molokai when the kupuna would say the times were hard, but they always had their poi, and in order to make it stretch, they would make poi flour, they would call it. And so they would boil hot water, and on the side they'd make a mixture of flour and water. And into the boiling water, they would put this flour and water mixture until it turned clear. And then you would add it to whatever little poi you had. This would expand the poi. You know, like if you did it in the morning by noon or maybe a little later, it would be poi, and it would poha because they liked it. They didn't like it fresh because the consistency, the taste was different. It would turn, you know. So they ate it that way. They would eat it in the afternoon, slightly tart.
And poha is when the bubbles come out, you know, because it's
bubbly.
Yeah, bubbly and getting sour, yeah. But they always kept a small amount of the original poi. That's a starter, yeah, to help ferment the flour poi.
When time's really hard, they do that. But it always had a little bit to make it, you know, stretch.